All right, guys, I don't know what happened there. I'll start over again. I am finishing this cutting board. Okay. Had a big chunk out of it, so we put wood filler in there, let it dry, then we'll sand it. These two have been sanded and are ready for finish. Do you remember? We start out with our orbital sander with 120. We line up the holes so the dust goes in the bag as we sand instead of in the air. We go with 120, then we hit it with 180 all the way around, and then 220. And that's how many grits there are per inch. So the smaller number, that's the bigger sized or the rougher paper. As we get smaller and smaller, that's more particles per square inch, and it's finer and finer, so it should feel like glass when we're done with 220. After you hand sand with the orbital sander, you hand sand. You get sandpaper and a block. You do your edges, your corners. You can't very well do that, you know, on the rounded parts with the orbital. So you'd get in here with your sandpaper and get the hole sanded and your edges sanded. And once again, 150, hit it, 180, hit it, and 220 is what you finish with. And when you're hand sanding, it's important to go with the grain as much as possible, because you can leave that many scratches per inch. If you go across the grain, sometimes they show up. Okay, and then we can finish with steel wool. This is much finer than the 220 even, and it polishes our epoxy. Okay, so those are ready to finish. I'll show you that finishing process here in a second. I'm going to switch over to the lap desk. As you can see, I finished the graphics on here. I need to put my pencil holder on the back side, so when we're looking at the graphics, we flip it and then it goes down here. I've had some students put it on the wrong side, so that's the way you determine, looking at your graphics, flip it, and then it goes on the bottom. So we'll glue that there. Still need to round the corners, so I'll take it over and do that. And I also need to round the legs, and then they would be sanded and finished, and I'll show you that process. Let's come over here. I'll start out with the edge sander, and it's a real quick open up our vent, we turn it on, and it's just a little bit of sanding on the edge here. We keep it moving so it doesn't burn. As you can see, it burns really fast, doesn't it? So try not to push hard. Burns are hard to get rid of. I'm starting to get rid of it, going lighter and lighter. Okay. And we could even finish by doing it by hand if you got a little bit of burn. See, I like that look better than I like the square look. Okay, so you would do both ends, and you can finish even by doing it by hand, and that'll get rid of any burn marks. So that's about ready to be glued on. I guess I need to do both sides if I'm going to show you how to glue it on. Okay, don't want to touch that belt. It'll remove hide pretty quickly. Let's see if they're close in angle. Close enough, okay, for a pencil holder. I'll put that in my pocket and we'll go glue that on here in a second. So I was going to show you the legs, right? Got both our legs, and we need to router them on both sides. So very irregular shape. It follows the bushing again, and we round our edge. Here we go. So you can see I need to touch up here. I just hit it another pass until I get it. Keep it moving so it doesn't burn. Then we flip it over, we do the other side. Okay, because of time, I'll leave that and I'll come back and do that later. But after we router that, then we got a lot of sanding to do, right? We can use the orbital sander on the faces and then hand sanding on the rounded edges. Once again, 120 or 150, whichever we have, then 180 and then 220. Okay, then we're ready. When they're all sanded, we'll go over and add our finish. I'm going to add this thing on here real quick. Once again, I've got my mark. It's 16 inches long for the pencil holder, 20 inches for the lap desk, so I know I got to come in 2 inches, and I want to come down low here. Doesn't make sense to put it clear up here. That just makes less surface area, right? So we want it to be down low. We don't want any glue squeezing out, making a mess, so just a very small amount of glue. We don't want to have to clean up our glue. That should be plenty. I'm going to spread it out a bit. So it doesn't squeeze out on me, hopefully. And if it does, I'll scrape it off. Remember, if it's got glue, that glue doesn't take the finish. So it'll look white where the rest of your board turns dark. Okay, coming into my 2-inch mark there, coming down low, putting a little pressure, trying to get it nice and straight, clear across. You can see a little glue squeezing out, so I can wash that off later. I'm going to use my clamps to hold it in place. I'm pushing down on it just enough to where it's going to get tacky and not slide around on me. And these will hold them. Keep this on there a good hour or so. And that will hold them in place. And we can glue it, or we can get rid of the glue and do our finish sanding later. Okay, so that's ready to be sanded when the glue's dry. After sanding, all our steps of sanding, we're ready to finish. Let's go talk about finish here. So the cutting boards, if you remember, they get a mineral oil. Okay, we just put some mineral oil on. And mineral oil, you don't even have to wear gloves. You could actually, should have had the thing opened. As I was telling you, this is good for your digestion if you're constipated. It won't hurt you, in other words. So we just wipe it in. Check it out. It really brings out the color of the wood. And if your cutting board gets dull after use or after a year or two, you could always add another coat of oil just right on the top. Some finishes you would have to sand off and start over, but not mineral oil. Okay, so this gets 3 coats, right? In between coats, if it feels rough, we could use our 220 or maybe even steel wool to knock it down, but I think we'll be okay. I just wanted to show you that, and I'll finish both of these boards here in a minute with mineral oil. Coming over to my my legs here, they've already got a couple coats of tung oil on them. Okay, tung oil finish. I usually like to buy the glossy stuff, but this is all I had right now. The more coats you put on, the glossier your finish looks, and I always think, you know, the higher the gloss, the more professional it looks. So the top will get it, and the legs for your lap desk, 3 parts, right? We'll open it up, and I've got just little pieces of rag here, and we will pour it on the rag. I usually have a little cup over here too, but we wipe it on. Okay, nice heavy coat. Then once we get the whole thing coated, we will hang up to dry. Okay, so nice and heavy coat over the whole entire leg. And I'm not going to spend the time to do that neatly, but usually when you're putting on your finish, guys, you want to go with the grain. so it gets down in the grain. Okay, and you're gonna wipe it all over. We're wearing gloves because this is a finish that you wouldn't want in you or on you. Okay, so, and then we flip it over, we do that side, and then we would put our wire in and we would go hang it till it's dry. On the top, you may have noticed I've got my lag bolt with a nut and a washer. We would put this around it, and then we can hang it to dry as well. Where do we hang it? Back in our storage area, and I've got a storage area for each class. So I'll have a class back here. You can see a lot of them hanging there, and I'll have a class in here, and you can see them hanging up there. Turn the light on, you can see it better. Okay, so that's the process. Once you get your 3 coats on the cutting board and or the lap desk, you get to assemble it, take it home. It's yours. All right, guys, so that's our process. I will see you next time.